Let's talk hair growth and growing your hair the longest it's ever been. Now, first, I want to dispel the myth that Black women cannot grow long hair. Like, that is the most ridiculous thing that people can say. Like, our hair doesn't just stop growing after a certain length. Like, that's just not. Look at when folks get locks, right? When they go from having their hair loose and they get locks and suddenly they have long hair. Is it like suddenly hair starts growing? No, their hair has always been growing. Here's the thing. Afro textured hair compared to Asian and Caucasian hair is thinner, it's finer, and also it dries quickly or dries out more quickly and it becomes more brittle. So it's more prone to breakage. Because of all of these factors that are working against our hair, it is harder for us to grow long hair, but it's not impossible. Again, case in point, when people get their hair locked, it gets long. So here are the tips. If you don't want to get locked hair and you want to keep your hair loose, healthy, and grow it long and strong, this is my recommendations. And these are based off of my 14 years of hair care experience, conversations that I've had with hair specialists, as well as the best hair care practices. Okay, the first one is to shampoo your hair on a regular basis. This is just one of those things that there was this myth that dirty hair grows faster. I've heard it growing up and I still hear people saying it to this day, and it's just not true. Your hair is going to grow the same rate regardless if you wash it or not. But what's going to happen if you deny your hair shampoo? You're denying it hydration. Okay, your hair gets hydrated when you shampoo it with a cleansing shampoo. It's going to remove all of the products, the gunk, the oils, the dirt from your hair, but it's also going to help your cuticle to get raised or lift so that it can absorb moisture. Hydrated hair maintains its elasticity, and this keeps your hair from breaking off. Okay, so you want to hydrate your hair, and that is through shampooing. You can't just wet your hair. You can't just be misting it every day. That's not hydrating your hair. That's going to reactivate the products that you have on your hair. It might make your hair feel softer. It might feel moisturized, but that's not hydrating your hair. The second tip is, of course, whenever you shampoo, you always want to follow up with a good conditioner. You want to look for a conditioner that's going to work for your hair's porosity. My recommendation, if your hair is low porosity, then you want to use lighter weight conditioners. You don't need to do deep conditioning treatments because your hair isn't damaged. The problem with low porosity hair is that the cuticles are so closely compact. I also have low porosity hair that it's harder for your hair to absorb that moisture. If you're using a heavy conditioner that's coating down the strands, guess what? When it's time for you to apply your leave-in and your stylers, they're just going to sit on top of your hair. It's going to make it harder for your hair to absorb it. So use a lightweight conditioner. Whereas medium to high porosity hair, the cuticles lift and they close and it absorbs moisture, but it has a harder time retaining it. Then you want to use more emollient-rich conditioner, something that's a little bit heavier. Now, so that's your conditioner. So it's going to be about the same thing with your leave-in. Now, I always recommend using a leave-in in your hair. I know that there are product lines out there that is like a 2-in-1 or you only need this one product. Those are great. But here's my issue with those is that you're going to notice that certain parts of your hair might need a little bit more of a leave-in and some parts might need a little bit more of a styler. That's because our hair can have all different textures on one head. It could be different porosities. You can have more damage on one part of your hair than the other. So I like to layer my products and that way I can gauge to see what parts of my hair, like the ends of my hair, always needs a little extra product or leave-in on the ends to keep it more protected than the roots. So that's also, you want to use a good leave-in. If your hair is low porosity, if you're doing wash and goes, then you want to find the right product to water ratio. And then the final tip that I have, and this one is a little controversial, but never air dry. Never, ever, ever air dry. I never air dry my hair. It could be 230 degrees outside. I am going to sit under my hooded hair dryer. The reason being is that when our hair is wet, it's in its weakest state. Okay. The cuticles are lifted, they're open, and also the inner bonds of your hair, right? It's called the cell membrane complex, and that's what keeps the layers intact. As your hair is staying wet, that is causing the bonds to weaken even more. So then you get this thing called hygral fatigue or over moisture. You over moisturize your hair. It's the same principle if you leave conditioner in your hair too long, if you sleep with your hair wet. Some people who swim a lot, they notice that their hair starts to break off. It gets weaker. They assume that it could be the chlorine, and that is a part of it, but it's also leaving your hair in a weakened state. So that's why it's recommended that you should blow dry your hair with a diffuser or sitting under a hooded hairdryer. Do this every single week. This is how I have grown my hair from a pixie to tailbone length several times over and over again. It's not because I have magical genes. I don't. It's just that I have a hair care routine that allows me to retain length. And now you know exactly what I do, so you too can achieve long, healthy hair.